We are a peaceful people. Struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no. Cause we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one rice, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, the time on it. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one rice, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people. Struggle is we struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here, and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, cause we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one rice, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, the time on it. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people. Struggle is with struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here, and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, the time on night. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people. Struggle is with struggle, and we don't look for trouble. Just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here, and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, the time on night. Though we may criticize it, this is our home, we love it, and we need to keep it. We have that right. So we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. We are a peaceful people, struggle is with struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over, we ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know, we gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here, and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Big
Honorable members, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, I declare this 46th sitting of the National Assembly of the 12th Parliament of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana to be duly constituted and in session. The clerk will lead us in prayers.
Almighty God, we are gathered together, do most humbly beseech thee to guide us in all our consultations, so that we may together build a land where knowledge is free, where the mind is without fear, and the head is held high, and where words come from the depth of truth. Grant us, O God, thine aid and guidance, so that we may deal justly with the several causes that come before us, laying aside all private interests, prejudices, and personal preferences, that the result of our counsels may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion, the preservation of justice, the safety, honor, and happiness of the President, and the peace and prosperity of Guyana. Grant us, O God, the vision so to lead that all the people of this fair land may enter to that state of brotherhood and unity, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action.
Thank you, honorable members. Please be seated.
Vote of a new member.
Honorable members, I have received from Mr. Joseph Harman a letter dated the 26th of January 2022, resigning his post as leader of the opposition with effect from that date. That post has now become vacant. Honorable members, I have also received from Mr. Joseph Harman a letter dated the 14th of March 2022, resigning his seat as a member of Parliament with effect from the 15th of March 2022. With Mr. Harman's resignation, a seat in the National Assembly has become vacant. The vacancy is in accordance with Section 99A of the Representation of the People's Act Chapter 103, to be filled by a person whose name is to be extracted from the list of candidates from which Mr. Harmon's name was extracted. As Mr. Harmon's name was extracted from a Partnership for National Unity list of candidates, I have, in accordance with Section 99A of the said Act, called upon the representative of the said list to further extract from that list the name of a person who is willing to become a member of the National Assembly to fill the vacancy in the Assembly. Honorable members, I have received from Dr. Nicolette Odella Henry a letter dated the 10th of February 2022, resigning her seat as a Member of Parliament with effect from the 31st of March 2022. With Dr. Henry's resignation, a seat in the National Assembly has become vacant. The vacancy is in accordance with Section 99A of the Representation of the People's Act, Chapter 103, to be filled by a person whose name is to be extracted from the list of candidates from which Dr. Henry's name was extracted. As Dr. Henry's name was extracted from a Partnership for National Unity plus the Alliance for Change list of candidates, I have, in accordance with Section 99A of the said Act, called upon the representative of the said list to further extract from that list the name of a person who is willing to become a member of the National Assembly to fill that vacancy in the Assembly. Ms. Clerk.
I'll ask.
Now, oath of a new member. Honorable members, following the resignation of Mr. Harmon and my call upon the representative of the list from a Partnership for National Unity plus Alliance for Change list of candidates, I have been informed that the name of Mr. Aubrey Norton was extracted from the list and that Mr. Aubrey Norton was on the 6th of April 2022 declared by the Guyana Elections Commission to be an elected member of the National Assembly. Before Mr. Norton can take part in the proceedings of the Assembly, he will have to make and subscribe the oath of office before the Assembly as required by Article 167 of the Constitution. As Mr. Norton is present, he can now make and subscribe the oath, which will be administered to him by the Clerk of the Assembly. Mr. Clerk, Mr. Norton.
I, Aubrey Norton, do hereby solemnly declare that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the people of Guyana, that I will faithfully execute the office of Member of the National Assembly without fear or favor, affection or ill will, and that in the execution of functions of that office, I will honor, uphold, and preserve the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana.
Honorable members, I offer my congratulations to the honorable member, Mr. Aubrey Norton, and welcome him back to the National Assembly. Honorable members, following the resignation of Dr. Nicolette Odella Henry and my call upon the representative of the list of a Partnership for National Unity Plus Alliance for Change list of candidates, I have been informed that the name of Ms. Valda Lawrence was extracted from the list and that Ms. Valda Lawrence was on the 6th of April 2022 declared by the Guyana Elections Commission to be an elected member of the National Assembly. Before Ms. Lawrence can take part in the proceedings of the Assembly, she will have to make and subscribe the oath of office before the Assembly as required by Article 167 of the Constitution. As Ms. Lawrence is present, she can now make and subscribe the oath, which will be administered by the clerk. Ms. Lawrence?
Thank you. I, Walda Lawrence, do hereby solemnly declare that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the people of Guyana, that I will faithfully execute the office of member of the National Assembly without fear or favor, affection or ill will, and that in the execution of functions of that office, I will honor, uphold, and preserve the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana.
Sign it down for me. You'll stand there on this.
Congratulations. Congratulations, Honorable Member, Ms. Lawrence, and welcome back to the Assembly. And honorable members, I would like, on behalf of all of you, and also again myself, to congratulate both members, Mr. Aubrey Norton and Ms. Valda Lawrence, on their again becoming members of this National Assembly. We welcome them and extend all our good wishes and best prayers to them in the performance of their duties. Mr. Clerk.
Messages from the President. Announcements by the Speaker.
Honorable members, the Deputy Speaker will be joining us virtually. Let us offer our prayers to his family. Most of them are stricken with COVID, but they are in good spirits.
Presentation of petitions. Presentation of papers and reports, etc.
Honorable members, I present to the Assembly the minutes of the proceedings of the 6th meeting of the Committee of Selection, which was held on Tuesday, the 1st of March of this year. Honorable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly the annual report of the Public Utilities Commission for the year 2020.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hereby present to the Assembly the 2016, 2017, and 2018 annual reports of the Supreme Court of Judicature before this House, as well as present to the House the five-year strategic plan, 2021 to 2026 of the Women and Gender Equality Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to present to this Honourable House the Treasury Memorandum prepared pursuant to Resolution number 25 of 2021, dated December 13th, 2021 of the National Assembly on the public accounts of Guyana for the year 2015. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Minister of Public Works.
Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly the audited financial statements of the Chedijagan International Airport Corporation for the year ended 31st of December 2020.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly the Public Health Coronavirus Number 3 Regulations 2022, Number 8 of 2022.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister of Housing and Water.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I present to the Assembly the audited financial statement of the Central Housing and Planning Authority for the year ended 31st of December 2019.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Reports from committees.
Honorable Member, Mr. Jermaine Figuera, Chairperson of the Public Accounts Committee. Honorable Member, to report on the Public Accounts Committee in relation to the appointment of members of the Public Procurement Commission.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I present the report to the National Assembly of the fourth session of the 12th Parliament of Guyana 2020 to 2022, report of the Public Procurement Commission, report of the Public Accounts Committee relating to the appointment of members of the Public Procurement Commission.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance and Chairperson of the Committee on Appointments.
Thank you very much, sir. It's my pleasure to bring before this House and table the fourth report of the Committee of Appointments in relation to the appointment of members to the Women and Gender Equality Commission. As I'm on my feet, Mr. Speaker, can I proceed to do this next one?
Honorable Minister, you may proceed.
I have the pleasure of presenting to you the fifth report of the Committee of Appointments in relation to the appointment of a director of the Board of the Natural Resource Fund and a member to the Public Accountability and Oversight Committee in keeping with the Natural Resource Fund Act number 19 of 2021. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Mr. Clerk.
Oral questions without notice. Questions on notice.
Honorable members, on today's order paper, there are 6 questions. Questions 1 to 5 are for written replies, and question number 6 is for oral reply. Questions number 1 to 5 are in the name of the Honorable Member, Ms. Geeta Chandan Edmond, and are for the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs. And question number 6 is in the name of the Honorable Member, Mr. Ganesh Mahipon. The answer to these questions have been received and therefore in accordance with our standing orders been circulated. Question number 6 is for oral reply. Honorable Member, Mr. Mahipal, you may ask your question of the Minister of Local Government, who may respond.
Thank you very much, Comrade Speaker. Comrade Speaker, in keeping with the laws of Guyana, Chapter 2802, Section 28(1) and 2 of the Local Authorities Elections Amendment Act 2018, Act number 10 of 2018, which states, Chapter 2802, Section 28, the councillors of every council, hereinafter provided in this section, elect out of their number a chairman and deputy chairman of the council. And 2, the overseers shall no later than the 16th of December of each year summon a meeting of the councillors for the ensuing year for the purpose of electing a chairman and deputy chairman for the ensuing year, and not later than 3 days' notice of the meeting shall be given. The Local Authorities Elections Amendment Act 2018, Act number 10 of 2018, Section 12(1), subject to paragraph B and C, the town clerk shall in every year, no later than the 16th day of December, call a meeting of the city councillors for the purpose of electing the mayor and deputy mayor for the ensuing year. Can the Honourable Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, Mr. Nigel Dharamlal MP, explain to this Honourable House why were no elections for chairman and deputy chairman, mayors and deputy mayors of the 17 neighbourhood democratic councils and 10 municipalities respectively held on or before December 16, 2021 for the ensuing year 2022.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the question. So while it is the functional duty of the Minister of Local Government and Regional Development to appoint the day on which local government elections will be held during the period commencing November 1 and ending on December 7 of the third year in which the term of office of the current council commenced, pursuant to Article 1621 of the Constitution of Guyana, the Guyana Elections Commission is vested with the power to administer and conduct elections in Guyana. On 3rd December 2021, the chairperson of GCOM, by letter, informed the Honorable Mohibir Anil Nandlal, SC MP, Attorney General, and Minister of Legal Affairs, the principal legal advisor of the Government of Guyana, that while GCOM is cognizant of the legal requirement that local government elections should be held in 2021, GCOM was not in a position to do so, since the agency was without a chief elections officer, who is the officer required by law to manage the operations of the conduct of elections in Guyana and to oversee the registration of electors. As a result, and for that reason, local government elections 2021 were not held. In consequence thereof, by Order number 32 of 2021, dated 8 December 2021, I exercised the powers that were vested in me by Section 36A of the Local Authorities Elections Act to postpone those elections. It may be opposite that I remind that Section 36A reads, and I quote, "Where the minister is satisfied, on the advice of the Elections Commission, that it is impracticable to comply with the provisions of this Act or the Local Authorities Elections Amendment Act 1990 regarding the date for holding an election to elect members of a local democratic organ, he may, at any time by order, postpone such date to a date specified in the said order or to a date specified in a subsequent order." And end quote. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Member, Mr. Mahipal.
Thank you, Comrade Speaker. Comrade Speaker, my question was not related to the holding of local government elections. My question was related to the holding of internal elections within elected councils for the election of chairman and vice chairman of the respective NDCs, mayors and deputy mayors within the respective municipalities. May I redirect the Honorable Minister to the question as, can the Honorable Minister of Local Government and Regional Development, Mr. Nigel Dharamlal MP, explain to this Honorable House why were no elections for chairmen and deputy chairmen, mayors and deputy mayors of the 17 neighborhood democratic councils and 10 municipalities, respectively, held on or before December 16, 2021 for the ensuing year 2022, in keeping with the laws of Guyana, Chapter 2802, Section 28, 1 and 2, and the Local Authorities Elections Amendment Act 2018, Act number 10 of 2018.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, elections were slated for 2021, and as per correspondence of the chair of GCOM, I acted in that way, and I have no other contribution on this issue.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. Mahipon.
Thank you, Comrade Chair. I know as per standing order, this is my final follow-up on the question, and I wish to remind the House that in keeping with the laws of this country, internal elections...
Are you reminding the House or the Minister?
The Honorable Minister, sir, through you.
Okay.
That internal elections for chairpersons and vice chairpersons, mayors and deputy mayors have nothing to do with GCOM. It is the authority of... Comrade Speaker, it is the town clerk and overseers who must administer these elections every year as quoted earlier by the laws of Guyana. And I'm kindly asking the Honorable Minister, who is responsible for local government and regional development, to tell the National Assembly and people of Guyana, why is it that internal elections for the election of chairmen and vice chairmen, mayors and deputy mayors were not held on or before the 16th of December? And perhaps if he needs help, he can ask Honorable Anand Prasad, his deputy.
Honorable Minister of Local Government.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as I've indicated earlier, we were advised by the Guyana Elections Commission that elections which were due in 2021, that is total local government elections, that we were advised that they were not possible, and I acted on that advice. And there is an order postponing, correct, there was an order that was published on the 8th of December postponing those elections. And thank you, Attorney General, which would have continued the life of the council until such time that we have elections.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. As far as I understand, that the order continues the status quo. Honorable Member, you can go ahead.
Sir, I just would like some clarity in terms of how many follow-up questions do I have?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Comrade Speaker. Sir, the precedence in this National Assembly has always been, and I know of it from research, that the Honorable Minister will submit to this House, should he request to extend the life of these councils, that he will submit a paper to this House for ratification. But to my knowledge as a member, no paper of such was submitted to this Honorable House. But the laws of Guyana is clear, it's pellucid, sir, and it states that elections of internal elections for
Okay, but you know repeating this 4 times, right? So the new question to the minister is why a document hasn't been tabled.
Why the document has not come to the House and why these
Thank you.
overseers and town clerks did not
Thank
hold
you very
internal
much, sir.
elections. And it has
Honorable
nothing to do with
Minister,
GCOM.
is there a document to come to the National Assembly for maintaining the status quo?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the 8th of December 2021, an order was gazetted to that effect.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Mr. Clerk?
Statements by ministers, including policy statements, personal explanations, requests for leave to
On
move
the personal explanations, I had been asked some time ago by the chief whip of the opposition that I think it was Ms. Sarabo Hali wanted to make a statement on Mr. Harman when he offered his resignation, and I told you we'll hold it. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Clerk.
Request for leave to move the adjournment of the National Assembly on definite matters of urgent public importance. Motions relating to the business or sittings of the National Assembly and moved by Minister.
Just give me one.
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion calling for suspension of the standing orders under this head read by the clerk.
Honorable, I was just about to call.
Sorry.
Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker. As the members of the committee know, the motion has been circulated calling for suspension of the standing orders number 13, which deals with the order of business of the House. And in this case, we're asking for the committee business where there are quite a few committee reports that are there and motions to be approved by the House that a number of them have been waiting since December 2021. As you're aware, sir, and members of the House, that a number of these relate to constitutional bodies that have been waiting so that we can go through the procedures and appoint them. And so the ERC has been waiting from December 2021. This is a very important one, and so it allow us to have the majority, two-thirds majority, support of this House so we can go to the second stage regarding the appointment of the ERC members and bringing those names back to the House in the second round. So we've been unable to work on that because we have not got the approval of the House. The second issue, of course, is the Police Service Commission that has been before the House since December, but because of heavy agendas and budget and everything else, this is also one that has been waiting, that is critical. And the Committee of Appointment, of course, they also have, I think, one that is important for all of us in this House, is the appointment of the Public Procurement Commission, which the Committee of Appointment the PAC finished its work unanimously as well, so that we have that as well to come forward, as well as the Women and Gender Equality Commission, the first stage, to do the list of entities so we can go to consult and bring back the names, and then, of course, the nominees from the committee appointment regarding the Natural Resource Fund Act for a director to the board and a member of the Public Accountability and Oversight Committee. So we ask that the House allow us to suspend Standing Order number 13 to allow for committee business to come up after government business at today's sitting. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The motion is proposed. I will now put the question. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. Mr. Clerk.
Introduction of bills.
Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs.
Thank you very much, sir. I present to the Assembly, sir, the Evidence Amendment Bill 2022, Bill number 3 of 2022, a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Evidence Act, and I move that the bill be read the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Evidence Amendment Bill 2022, Bill number 3 of 2022.
Honorable Minister of Housing and Water.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly Condominium Bill 2022, Bill number 4 of 2022, a bill entitled An Act to Make Provision for the Horizontal and Vertical Subdivision of Land and Buildings into Units for Individual Ownership and to make provision for the use and management of condominiums and matters connected thereto. And I move that the bill be read for the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Condominium Bill 2022, Bill number 4 of 2022.
Honorable Minister of Home Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly the Juvenile Justice Amendment Bill 2022, Bill number 5 of 2022, a bill entitled An Act to Amend the Juvenile Justice Act, and I move that the bill be read the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Juvenile Justice Amendment Bill 2022, Bill number 5 of 2022.
Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly the Nurses and Midwives Bill 2022, Bill number 6 of 2022, a bill entitled An Act to Make Provision for the Registration and Regulation of Nurses, Midwives, Nursing Assistants, and Specialist Nurses, and for related matters. And I move that the bill be read for the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
The Nurses and Midwives Bill 2022, Bill number 6 of 2022.
Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly the Mental Health Protection and Promotion Bill 2022, Bill number 7 of 2022, a bill entitled An Act to Provide Mental Health Care and Treatment for Persons with Mental Illnesses, and to protect, promote, and fulfill the human rights of those persons during the delivery of mental health care, to provide for the establishment of the Mental Health Board, to repeal the Mental Hospital Ordinance, and for related matters. And I move that the bill be read for the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Mental Health Protection and Promotion Bill 2022, Bill number 7 of 2022.
Honorable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, I present to the Assembly the Radiation Safety and Security Bill 2022, Bill number 8 of 2022, a bill entitled An Act to Provide for the Safe, Secure, and Peaceful Uses of Ionizing Radiation, protect persons and the environment against the harmful effects of radioactive waste, establish the Radiation Safety and Security Board, and for connected matters. And I move that the bill be read for the first time and ask that it be sent or referred to a select committee.
Let the bill be read the first time.
The Radiation Safety and Security Bill 2022, Bill number 8 of 2022.
Honorable Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to present to the Assembly the Tax Amendment Bill 2022, Bill number 9 of 2022, a bill intituled an act to amend the Tax Act, and I move that the said bill be read the first time.
Let the bill be read the first time.
Tax Amendment Bill 2022, Bill number 9 of 2022. Public business, government's business.
Before we take government's business, let me extend a welcome on your behalf to former Prime Minister, Mr. Hamilton Green. And give my salam to Brother Bilal. Assalamu alaikum. We also visiting with us today is the former member, Mr. Harry Gill. And we have former MP also, Ms. Cheryl Sampson. Welcome. Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance and Government Chief Whip, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a motion before us in approval of Guyana's membership to the Commonwealth Association of Public Accounts Committee. When the PAC first met after the selection of the committees, we found that there was a letter regarding the Commonwealth Association of Public Accounts Committee, and we asked for guidance from the Parliamentary Management Committee. The reason being is that what we learned is that in January 2020, after the Parliament was dissolved, there was a request by the former Speaker, we believe, to ask that Guyana join and become a member of the Commonwealth Association of Public Accounts Committees. And so the PAC correctly referred this to the PMC. The PMC then examined the issue and made a decision in support of it January 27th, 2021. It did want to have some matters clarified, but it was supported. Regrettably, Mr. Speaker, after the meeting in January, there was one more meeting in March 17th, 2021, where we had a quorum. And then after that, there was no quorum based on the standing orders until January 19th, 2022. And therefore, that led to an unfortunate delay in the motion coming before the House. This is a simple motion coming before the House. The CPAC is designed to support the work of the Commonwealth Public Accounts Committees in promoting good governance, implementing the declaration on these committees contained in the communique of the November 2013 Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. And so CPAC is designed to support the work of the Commonwealth Public Accounts Committees, and therefore we are in both at the Public Accounts Committee level and at the PMC level in support of Guyana becoming a member of the Commonwealth Association of Public Accounts Committees. We need to have the House approval as per norm. And in addition to that, just in case anybody wonders, we have been advised that this will not cost us, there will be no financial consequences as a result of us joining this organization, and that we will be allowed to have a member of the PAC and a clerk from the Public Accounts Committee sit on this body where it meets virtually and or in physically in presence. So that we call on the House to support this. We believe this is a good initiative and would help to strengthen the Public Accounts Committee of the Guyana Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The motion is proposed. The Honorable Member, Mr. Figueira.
Is on? No. Yes. Mr. Speaker, in relation to this specific motion, we on this side of the House do support this motion. And it is a body in which we believe the intended motion to come is one in which we see an opportunity to pledge our disapproval of the amendments of this standing order, which the honorable member will soon bring to this House. And we will register our complaint to this body. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable members, I will now put the motion. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Ayes have it. The motion is carried. Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, my chairman of the PAC on the other side gave warning of what they intend to do if you join CPAC. It's your business. Except when you do it, when you sit at the CPAC, you're representing the Guyana Parliament, not yourselves. And so just a reminder that I just had to put that in, Mr. Speaker. I couldn't let that just lie. But the motion on the amendment of Standing Orders number 82 regarding the Public Accounts Committee. I have seen a number of reports in the press to do with what kind of dastardly plot the government and Gail Teixeira has in trying to bring this amendment to the Public Accounts Committee. And all I can think about, sir, is that maybe the mental health bill is needed more badly in this House than before. But sometimes one has to be careful about paranoia. But the issue, sir, is that this is a bill. Look, when we went through constitutional reform in the 1990, 2001, and then we went through the legal reforms that followed in the legislature and the amendments to our standing orders, this was an important issue in terms of recognizing in the constitutional reform that it actually built in to do with parliamentary committees and the Parliament and the Parliamentary Management Committee. There was a reason why in the legislative reform process which followed regarding ensuring that the PMC, the Parliamentary Management Committee, had a quorum, not of 3, which would have been the chairman and 2 others, but a quorum of the chairman and 2 from government and 2 from opposition side. Why did that happen? Why was that necessary? The belief was, the opinion that was given then, and it was uncontested, that this was the body that would manage the affairs of the Parliament, and that this would not to allow the government to have a runaway train in the committee, nor to have the opposition have a runaway train in the committee. And therefore, it ensured that the PMC must have 2 opposition and 2 government in order to go forward. And so that has been the practice since these amendments were made both in the Constitution and in the standing orders. And Mr. Speaker, why do we want to do it in the Public Accounts Committee? And let us explain why. Because I have already stated in the press, but I think it's as in response to Mr. Figueira, who also went to the press prior to me. And that was, look, I am a member of this House. This motion is not from the Public Accounts Committee. It is from me as a member of the House that has a right to bring a motion on the floor. Anybody has, once it's in order with the standing orders. In the Public Accounts Committee, the government is under scrutiny. That is, the government expenditure is under scrutiny, and the opposition chairs the committee. The opposition has a right to do that, and the government has to do that. Anybody watching the Public Accounts Committee live streaming will notice that on both sides of the House, there is a lot of activity and attempts to get to the root of what are the problems with the way in which the finances financial management of a number of state agencies, including regional bodies, etc., is taking place. It is therefore maybe something that we need to look at in terms of ensuring that because it is the government's expenditure, and it's not this government expenditure that's been examined in the PAC now, we're dealing with we just finished 2016, and that report will come here. We're dealing with 2017 and 2018. So this is not an issue that this government is afraid of being scrutinized. You can't say that because we are not at this government's expenditure from October 2020 forward. But what this attempts to do is to make sure in the Public Accounts Committee there's a recognition of both sides, that the government side has an interest to make sure that when the expenditure comes up and examination, that it is there to see it and to participate in it. Just as it is the right of the opposition to be there and to do what they have to do in the PAC. We have just gone through a training course, an online training course in the Public Accounts Committee about the role of the Public Accounts Committee and the issue of nonpartisanship in the committee and the role we have to play. I know that the members of the PAC have done it, so have I, and therefore I hope that will keep us in line with that. The issue is stated very clearly in all the training programs. It is up to each individual parliament to decide on the composition of the Public Accounts Committee and the rules that regulate them. One of the comments that was made is that we're amending the standing orders. And I'm sure that Mr. Ramjatan will remember, my friend Mr. Ramjatan will remember, and Dr. Rupnai is not here, that after the 2011 elections, when we were in minority, that the two honorable members came to the House with amendments to the standing orders on the floor of the House to reverse the membership of the committees from what was 5 government and 4 opposition, and reversed it the other way in every committee of the House. Every committee except the PMC. And of course, public accounts, they reversed it as well. So that, one, the issue that the question of whether I have a right to bring this without going to PAC, I'm saying yes, I do have under the standing orders. The second thing is that in this House, it was done in 2012. Secondly, but Mr. Speaker, the honorable member said he didn't touch this, but he touched every committee, every single committee. So what's the problem, are you getting semantic on me, Mr. Ramjatan? Every single committee, you want me to listen, Mr. Speaker? Every committee where the government had a majority suddenly was reversed, and we were in minority in every single committee of the 10th Parliament of this House as a government. So don't come to me with holier than thou. I am buying the holier than thou argument, please. Because some of us got institutional memory. And I see Miss Valdez here and Miss Norton here. They've been here before. They know it. Must learn from the institutional memory of this House. Mr. Speaker, and then wait, chapter 2 comes along. In 2015, after APNU AFC won the elections, they brought another motion to amend the standing orders to reverse back to government majority and opposition minority. Isn't that an interesting story? Isn't that an interesting bit of history in this House? That the fickleness that took place, and then some people are saying there's some dastardly plot behind this. Mr. Speaker, let me go further. I have heard that there's some attempt to be able to delay the work of the committee. Mr. Speaker, we just dealt with a matter before. This one that showed that a decision of the Parliamentary Management Committee could not be implemented until a year later because of a problem of quorum. So here you have the PMC 221 is the quorum. And in the PMC, Mr. Speaker, if you'll allow me, Mr. Speaker is the chairman of that committee, not me. We met at the second meeting on November the 18th, 2020. We met on the third meeting held on January 27, 2020. We held on the fourth meeting on March the 17th, 2021. The fifth meeting, which was called on April 21st, 2021, June 16, 2021, June 23rd, 2021, July 28, 2021, October 20th, 2021, December 15, 2021, we met, but we could not have a meeting because the opposition either had no representative or one representative. So don't tell me about who can cause delays and who can stymie the work. You did it for the last year in the Parliamentary Management Committee. Mr. Speaker, the fifth meeting, as you recall, Mr. Speaker has been extraordinarily patient, but convening meeting after meeting after meeting, and we sit there and we wait and we wait and we wait. No excuses, sometimes no excuses, sometimes one person walking late from the opposition and doesn't know what happened to the other person. So the fifth meeting of the PMC, which should have been held on April 21st, 2021, was not held until January 19, 2022. And then, not over yet, Mr. Speaker, we called a meeting, a sixth meeting, no quorum, a seventh meeting, no quorum. So please, gentlemen and ladies of this honorable House, you know, this is a measure being introduced. It may have been an oversight of the Constitutional Reform Committee, who knows? But that to ensure that also in the PAC, that let's look at scenarios. Suppose the PAC has a meeting and the opposition doesn't come, but the chair of the opposition is there. Does that mean without this amendment that we could push through and do what we want? Yes, it does, according to the President's standing orders. Just like it relates that if you, the opposition, are in the PAC and no member comes from the PPP side, that you will proceed, as you did in December 2021, with a meeting with one item on, in which you made a decision which actually you're not entitled to put in terms of putting an onus, a burden on the consult fund, which you had no authority to do. So, Mr. Speaker, the issue is that the quorum being amended is not harmful. It, in fact, will make sure that both sides always have two on each side. That you don't have to have everybody, but you have to have two on each side to make sure the work goes forward. And as I said, if people are saying that I've read in the press, I don't know if the media report is correct about what Mr. Figueres said, about that this was an attempt to stymie the work of the PAC. Well, my question to the honourable member is that what were you guys doing in the PMC? That you stymied for one whole year, that work could not go on for one entire year. So maybe it's a guilty conscience. Maybe you're deflecting what you did in PMC now onto PAC. I really can't analyze your mindset, but I would say that this will enhance the way in which we operate in the Parliament. It is no harm. It is not harmful to anyone. Now, Mr. Speaker, we went further to actually put in the motion the formulation from the PMC, and in fact, this formulation mimics the formulation of the PMC, that the chairperson would be the chairperson plus two members of the government, two members of the opposition. We didn't go as far as the PMC in the sense that one of whom shall be represented the main opposition party, because we noticed that in PAC, it is only the main opposition party in the PAC. Of course, in future, it could be amended if there are other parties in the PAC in the opposition side. So, Mr. Speaker, I hope that I have assuaged the fears of the opposition side. But if you see boogeymen everywhere, I can't help you. If you're seeing boogeymen and ghosts everywhere, I really can't help you. What I'm saying to you, and you have to decide on whether fact and whether there's trust and confidence, but that the issue is that two on the opposition side, two on the government side, and the chairman as a quorum will lead to greater trust and confidence, lead to certain ways in which we operate in the PAC that would in no way harm the work of the PAC. I find the comments about stymieing the work of the PAC very, very strange, because we've been working well. And when it comes to draft work, I think the opposition knows who does the draft work in some cases, who comes prepared to sit in some cases. So that it's not just, as the opposition would like to put it over, that this is an attempt to stymie. Mr. Speaker, I hope that the members will have seen the light, but I have, unfortunately, from the murmurings of the other side, I don't have confidence in that. But I wish to assure the opposition side that whatever they may jump to the worst possible scenario, that this is not one of those. This is bringing us, and I believe the PAC is as important a committee in the House as is the Parliamentary Management Committee. One deals with oversight of the expenditures of the state and the taxpayers' money. The other one deals with the management of this Parliament, this House. Both require collaboration, both require a recognition of both sides of the House by ensuring that there's always two representatives, each as a quorum. And I do not think there's any harm in that in the Public Accounts Committee. So, Mr. Speaker, in just closing, I wish to say that I don't have a speaker's list, regrettably, so I cannot advise you, sir. All I can say is that I assume from my colleague, where's Mr. Jones gone, that it will be government opposition will just rotate through, because I do not have the list. I have the list of my speakers, which I shared with Mr. Jones, but he was not quite sure or quite clear or ready, and I have not had any further follow-up. So all I can suggest to you, Mr. Speaker, is that we go with government, which I have done, and opposition, government, until the speaker's list on this issue is complete, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Member, Mr. Figuera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from the outset, let me assure the honorable member, Madam Teixeira, that we are not persuaded in your line of argument. Mr. Speaker, I am happy to be back in this House after a very long stay of almost 2 months of non-activity. Mr. Speaker, this is the robust legislative agenda the Honorable Minister of Legal Affairs promised this House, Mr. Speaker. This is the active and more engaged Parliament the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance promised the people of Guyana. Another failed promise by this administration, Mr. Speaker. This approach to Parliament, and by example, this very motion we are called to speak on here today, Mr. Speaker, reaffirms this regime's poor governance of affairs of this country and their attitudes towards transparency and accountability. Mr. Speaker, this situation is further enabled by the many rejected motions and watered-down amendments of motions brought by the opposition to this House, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, before I venture further into my contributions to this motion, that reminds me of our very own renowned poet, Mr. Martin Carter. I will leave Shakespeare to the big boys on that side. Sir, I'm reminded of the very line in one of his many masterpieces This is a dark time, my love. Guyana, we must all brace ourselves. But with every dark cloud, I am comforted. With every dark cloud, Mr. Speaker, there is a silver lining. Mr. Speaker, it would be remiss of me not to welcome back to this honorable house the most honorable Ms. Valda Ann Lawrence to continue her service to the people of Guyana. Further,
Honorable member, let me just caution those who are in the gallery that I'm sure they were instructed earlier today that you're not supposed to bang the desk, take pictures, you're in the gallery. If you violate the standing orders, we will have to ask that you be removed. Continue, honorable member.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Those expressions of those who are here are happy and they're elated, Mr. Speaker, that good people are.
Honorable member, are you challenging that ruling? You, as an honorable member of this House, one would expect that you would also contribute to upholding the rules until we change the rules.
But you didn't even allow me to finish,
You may
sir.
continue.
Mr. Speaker, I join my colleagues also in welcoming a friend, a comrade, and the leader of our great party, and soon-to-be opposition leader, and moreover, the president-in-waiting, Mr. Aubrey Norton, to this House, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this motion brought to this House by the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, a sitting member of the Public Accounts Committee, should on its own be of concern to all Guyanese. Is this normal? It certainly is not, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I believe the people of Guyana, civil society, and other important bodies have missed the real deal behind this move in this motion. The Public Accounts Committee, as you are aware of, sir, gives oversight to the people's money. The committee that strives to ensure transparency, accountability, and good governance in a bipartisan way is now deliberately being politicized by the minister who should take the lead in ensuring governance. And moreover, good governance is achieved in this country. Mr. Speaker, politicians, and more so aged ones, should not use their influence or office to deny professionals their constitutional dues once they would have served. The venom in this motion, Mr. Speaker, the venom in this motion is partly birthed out of a decision derived by a meeting of the committee of members for the passing of the decision for past members of the Public Procurement Commission to be paid when the minister with responsibility for governance was vividly absent, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, instead of doing that, the member brings into question her true role of importance to this very important portfolio. Mr. Speaker, the member's motion to amend Standing Orders 95-6, which deals with a quorum for the PAC to mimic that of Standing Order 83-5 for the Parliamentary Management Committee. A committee, Mr. Speaker, whose roles, functions, and objectives are vastly different, and as such provides for 5 members to be a quorum, of which 2 represents the government, 2 represents the opposition, and the speaker or the deputy speaker is the chairman. Mr. Speaker, even the blind can see the mischief here. This member knows full well what she is doing, and it is clothed in a veil to deceive, but we can see through the emperor's clothes. Light has shone in darkness, and the image exposed. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note the current quorum of the Public Accounts Committee meeting, Mr. Speaker, requires 3 members, irrespective of political affiliation. This makes it vastly different, Mr. Speaker, vastly different from all other committees of the Parliament, and it provides for a more apolitical environment. Mr. Speaker, this committee is not primarily concerned about party or party affiliations, but it is more concerned about doing the work expected to be done to improve the financial governance of this country. What its present construct does, Mr. Speaker, is that it compels all sides to be present because the work must go on, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is not what the PPP wants, and it is quite evident. They think the committee meets too often and that it should not meet the 2020-2021 findings of the Auditor General report in a very short time. After sending home 85% of the accounting officers within a month of them being installed in August 2020, this same minister wants to dwell on years. 1 meeting a week on the 2016, on the 2017, on the 2018, and on the 2019 AG findings for people who are no longer even on the job. Wasting time, Mr. Speaker, holding up the work of the PAC. Mr. Speaker, what is being proposed by the minister, who is a member of the committee, whose party argued consistently in 2015 and beyond that ministers of government should not be members of this particular committee because it does not augur well for good governance. But today, Mr. Speaker, we are seeing the attempts by the very Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance seeking to control this committee, Mr. Speaker. And she is a sitting minister. She was a part of the arguments put in 2015 and beyond that ministers of government should recuse themselves from this very important committee. Irony, Mr. Speaker. Irony at its best. Mr. Speaker, this motion seeks, and I must repeat, it seeks to change the quorum of any 3 members. Any 3 members, be it that on the opposition, be it that on the government side. Any 3 members to 5 members. And not just any 5 members, Mr. Speaker. The motion gives specificity to who should sit on this 5. 2 from government, 2 from opposition, and the chairman, Mr. Speaker. A move entrenches what my friend, the Honorable Kimraj Ramjikan calls control freakism. Control freakism, Mr. Speaker. And it further adds to the destruction of the guardrails of our democracy. Mr. Speaker, such a matter has never been part, historically, Mr. Speaker, such a situation has never been part of the PAC since its inception across governments until now, until we have this minister responsible for parliamentary affairs and governance in this country, Mr. Speaker. Until now, what a travesty. What a travesty, Mr. Speaker. This motion came to you, Mr. Speaker, like a thief in the night. Why, Minister Teixeira? Why did you do such? You are very much aware, Mr. Speaker, that this committee has exhibited good camaraderie, where there are amicable exchange most of the time. Why did you engage in this left-handed and some would say sinister and pernicious act, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, we are persuaded, we are convinced that this move and the intent of this motion by the Honorable Minister is intended to paralyze the work of this committee, Mr. Speaker. This is what we consider to be a wicked act, Mr. Speaker. It is wicked in its entirety, and we reject this motion, Mr. Speaker. This motion is one in which we on this side will always have grave concern with for the future modus operandi of this committee, for good governance, accountability, and transparency. Mr. Speaker, this is happening at a time when major government investments are taking place without feasibility studies, Mr. Speaker, where questionable spending of the people's money are done. This is the time the Honorable Minister choose to bring such a questionable motion to this House. Mr. Speaker, we have noted with keen interest that this motion is being brought directly to this House. As the Minister would have indicated, and it is noteworthy, sir, that none other than you, Mr. Speaker, as chairman of the Standing Orders Committee, has never met a single time. This committee has never met a single time since Parliament commenced, since this 12th Parliament commenced, Mr. Speaker. Additionally, sir, what is equally concerning and a matter of significance is the effect this motion will have by mere non-attendance of government members, Mr. Speaker. This is a hidden agenda in this motion. Mr. Speaker, we are convinced, as I said, that the PPP will stymie the functioning of the PAC, rendering it impotent and non-functional whenever they choose. I guess, Mr. Speaker, this is a new form of democracy. I guess, Mr. Speaker, this is the Honorable Minister concept of good governance. Mr. Speaker, the record of attendance of PPP members' tardiness in the present construct of the PPP, of the PAC, brings into question the reason behind this motive. The Honorable Member, Mr. Speaker, Siraj, absent 2 times since the start of this Public Accounts Committee. The Honorable Members, Madam Teixeira, Member Datadin, Dr. Mahadio, absent 3 times since the start of this committee. And the Honorable Bishop, Mr. Speaker, has been absent
Mr.
4
Speaker,
times.
Mr. Speaker, absent with the excuse is different from absent. The member must talk.
Honorable Minister, you'd need to stand on a point of order. And if it's for clarification, I would have to ask the honorable member to give way. Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister.
I will.
Honorable Minister, you will have to stand on a point of order. And if it's a point of clarification, then I'll have to ask the current speaker if he wants to give way.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, the point of order is in relation to 40, and that has to do with a correction, not a clarification. It is a fact.
Honorable Minister, Honorable Member, the Minister wants to make a clarification correction. Would you allow her?
Mr. Speaker, if the Honorable Member would allow me to conclude, I will capture what you are trying to bring to the House, the Honorable Minister.
Honorable Minister, I will have to ask the Honorable Member to continue. So we can have that clarified by one of your other speakers.
I accept.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Minister, you're standing on another point of order.
6, no member shall impute improper motive to any member of the Assembly. Mr. Speaker?
Okay, honorable minister, honorable minister, I don't see that as imputing. You could have the clarification. Honorable minister, please, could you allow the honorable member to continue, and we can clarify this after?
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you and I want to applaud you for standing up and taking charge of your house in this business, the business in this house, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, Mr. Figueira, I didn't give you the floors yet. I was asking the honorable minister to take her seat so I can ask you to continue. I didn't ask you to continue yet. Honorable minister, so you can have one of your colleagues who will present clarify that. Honorable member, Mr. Figueira.
I appreciate you giving me back the floor, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, if the honorable member would have allowed me to finish. Is it on? Yes. Mr. Speaker, as I would have indicated, if the honorable member, Madam Teixeira, would have allowed me to conclude, she would have been made aware that the absence which the records of the committee of this parliament would have provided that substantiated all of the absences that I would have mentioned. It also included excuses from some of the said members. But it doesn't negate the fact that they were absent, Mr. Speaker. And with this particular motion that the honorable member is putting, absent with excuse will still handicap the work of the Public Accounts Committee with your non-attendance. Mr. Speaker, those attendance, I must state, Mr. Speaker, pale in comparison to the members on this side of the House who would have attended to do the work and the bidding of the people of this country, Mr. Speaker, of which myself and the honorable member, Mr. Patterson, would have been absent only once since the start of the 12th Parliament, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, since the commencement of the 12th Parliament, the PAC has been carrying out its mandate and meeting on every statutory date, and our work has been executed in a very efficient manner, despite all the efforts made by the honorable member, Mr. Speaker, of which my colleagues will give more clarity when their deliberations, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we see this motion, this attempt, Mr. Speaker, by the Honorable Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance. We see this as deliberate and calculated. It is a failed attempt to camouflage the intended action of this motion, as another attempt has shown to slow down the work of the PAC. Mr. Speaker, the PPP-led person, the Honorable Member, Madam Teixeira, even though she has been challenged for that leadership role by her other colleague, Mr. Speaker, and the mover of this motion, is to ensure that fewer meetings are held. And on occasions, Mr. Speaker, if they do not want certain agencies examined, they can now prevent the work of the PAC by simply absenting themselves from attending to do the work of the PAC, Mr. Speaker. As the evidence of their attendance, I would have aforementioned, states very clearly, very definitively, very pellucid, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we are convinced more than ever that this installed PPP administration is not concerned with good governance. It is not concerned with transparency, and it is not concerned about the accountability of the people's resources of this country. Mr. Speaker, this motion is clothed with wicked intentions, and it does not augur well for the work of the committee, and by extension,
Honorable member, this is the second time you're using wicked, and this is imputing. So you'd have to withdraw that. And as I'm on the floor reminding members, but parliamentary language, I heard earlier another word which was parliamentary. I wouldn't repeat it. Go ahead, Honorable Member.
I'm so guided, Mr. Speaker. I will repeat. This motion, Mr. Speaker, is not clothed with the best intention, and it doesn't augur well for the work of the committee and by extension, Guyana. In this regard, Mr. Speaker, I cannot, I will not, and I ask, because I do know that they exist, the consciousness of those on the other side, to think of Guyana, to think of its people, and not support this motion, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member, Mr. Etchell, Minister of Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make my contribution to this debate. And as I sat here and I listened to the previous speaker, the statements made being aligned alongside conduct of the committee justifies this motion. And every sitting of the Public Accounts Committee, the whole world has an opportunity to see and listen. Traditionally, Mr. Speaker, and you have served on the Public Accounts Committee. The Public Accounts Committee is normally a bipartisan body that seeks to build consensus with a view of strengthening accountability and transparency, where strong recommendations are made to protect the public purse, where public officers work out their accountability, where systems are examined, and if they are breached, recommendations for strengthening them. It should always be a committee where consensus, building an approach for Guyana's development and protecting of the public purse should be number one priority. But this Parliament, with all of its intrigues and all of the challenges it faces, we have never seen a Public Accounts Committee like this one before in the history of Guyana. We've had to come to this National Assembly, Mr. Speaker. We've had to come to this committee, to this Parliament, to ask that a chairman be removed because the then chairman of the Public Accounts Committee was unwilling to comply with the standing orders to put a simple motion to the floor, use his seat to abuse privilege and to suppress views of members of the government side. And we have had to say to the current chairman, if you continue to do the same thing, the same treatment will be meted out to you. And that is the gentleman we just listened to, who would not even listen to the speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to answer a couple of things that the honorable member said. We have never seen this rampant and pungent corruption that is being examined in the 2016, 2017, and the 2018 period, like what we are seeing today. Mr. Speaker, on Monday, a former accounting officer had to answer to the Public Accounts Committee of why he gave on 45 instances a contract to the same contractor in 2018 and 18 instances in 2017 a contract to the same contractor when there were 39 other eligible pre-qualified contractors. That is the record that this Public Accounts Committee is examining. Rampant and pungent corruption. Mr. Speaker, I'll come to the issue of quorum just now. Mr. Speaker, at the level of the committee, we have had to impose the rule that decisions are not made by the chairman, but by the committee. And Mr. Speaker, if we did not enforce that rule, you know what would have happened? Paragraphs that should have been examined and scrutinized were deemed closed by the chairman, and he was unwilling to allow a member to ask questions on those paragraphs. The agency came back and spent 6 hours answering questions. You talk about stymieing work? You wanted to ensure that those paragraphs were not examined because of the rampant and pungent corruption that existed during the period. So, Mr. Speaker, I stand here this afternoon to support the motion. And we have to ask some questions. And Mr. Speaker, I don't enjoy the luxury of putting together some nice sounding speeches in a paragraph to come here. I enjoy the luxury of representing the truth and representing the people of Guyana. And I will use that luxury here this afternoon. Mr. Speaker, is this motion taking away any right from anyone? The answer is no. So you could jump high, you could jump low. You could run around the place and call the PPP all the names you want in the ring or out the ring. The bottom line, we must say to the people, if Madam Teixeira's motion is taking away the right from anyone, then it should fail. If it is not taking away the right of anyone, it should succeed. But rather, what Madam Teixeira's motion is doing, Mr. Speaker, is seeking to prevent the abuse of privilege. The abuse. And Mr. Speaker, if the context and the environment that prevailed in the past in public accounts committees had continued, perhaps a motion like this would not have been necessary. But every onlooker, every Guyanese who is viewing would discover that repeatedly I've had to say at this public accounts committee, members of the then government who are now in opposition answer for accounting officers. Accounting officers, previous accounting officers, then ask questions. The strategy is to obfuscate, divert, make excuses, spend time trying to miss the point, so that the reality of what is being dealt with is not dealt with. And you know what is, when you see that, sir, and you have a quorum that says any 3 members could show up, you know what that could mean? If for some reason, whatever is the cause, members of government are not able to show up, you might very well hear the entire 2018 or 2019 is closed. The paragraphs are closed and the matter is finished and there will be no examination. That is what we are protecting here by this motion. That is what we are protecting. Mr. Speaker, I'm talking about people. People are talking here about showing up. The very same chairman, if he wants to make a point about absent and present, the records and the minutes will see how many times during a meeting he has been out of the chamber and chairmen have to act for him. Being present to start a meeting and then disappearing is not being present. You have a responsibility as chairman to carry out your functions. And then you come here with a straight face to accuse Madam Teixeira of absence, when really and truly the hard work of putting together reports and fixing principles and concepts in the proper context is coming from the government side, and you're coming here to disgrace one of the most senior members of this committee by using unparliamentary language like wicked and mischievous. Mr. Speaker, I find that behavior to be not only filled with arrogance, but it is also obnoxious. And it must be renounced. So don't take away anybody's right. Mr. Speaker, and what is worse is that you're not examining the PPPC government. We are examining the APNU AFC's record. And it is clear. It is clear that they don't want that to be examined. And it is clear from what I'm hearing. It is clear from what I'm hearing. Because I come from a worldview that says, it is out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So when I listen to people speak, I understand how they are thinking. And the thoughts that are being put out here by saying that we will use this to stymie the work. The intent of the APNU AFC was to use any opportunity that became available to them to close paragraphs, avoid scrutiny, and push through this thing with a mad rush so that the former public accounting officers would not have had to be accountable and answer for their paragraphs. Mr. Speaker, you know, in this country, there's a difference between truth and the truth that is told by some. Because it would appear that some people, their truth is whatever they would like to spin in a particular way and use a narrative to reflect the truth. But this National Assembly, in the Public Accounts Committee, where the people's business are being addressed in full view of the public knows the truth. And we have to be careful about how we just make nice sounding or reading nice sounding speeches. Because the time will come when we will have to account for our stewardship. Is there any right that is taken away? The answer is no. Would this motion prevent scrutiny? The answer is no. As a matter of fact, it will enhance scrutiny. If members of a previous government sit alone, examining their own record, that many of them participated in the current context where members are making excuses for accounting officers and government is not present, well then, you know that will not enhance scrutiny, that will prevent scrutiny. And this motion seeks to prevent that. This motion, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, addresses the issue of abuse. I heard Madam Teixeira, and then I heard the current chairman of the Public Accounts Committee speak. And let's talk about this, so that the Parliament will be edified and the people of Ghana will know. In December, by way of emails, we received notice about a meeting with a single item. And that had to do with payment of gratuity to members of the previous Public Procurement Commission. I was a member of that Public Accounts Committee that fixed the emoluments and benefits of members of the Public Procurement Commission. Gratuity was not included because only one person was intended to be full-time, and that was the chairman, and all the others were part-time and had other jobs. Known fact throughout the country. Known fact throughout the country. In the absence of government, the Public Accounts Committee went into error. The Public Accounts Committee went into error by doing two things. Making a decision that changes the emoluments and benefits of members of a commission after their contract came to an end and they were no longer in office or employed. First error. Second error, the then Public Accounts Committee made a decision that makes a call on the consolidated fund when the Constitution and the standing orders forbids any motion or bill except it has the approval of the executive. Mr. Figueroa believes because he sits on a chair and he could shout people down, he could make decisions.
Mr. Speaker.
And the government.
Honorable Member, Mr.
Mr. Speaker, I stand in order 41-6. The honorable member is imputing false motion towards me.
I have to hear him out. I don't see that as imputing. Go ahead, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if the unlearned, the untrained, the ill-researched, filled with arrogance or just mere political direction, without the balance of dialogue, discussion, and consensus making, the Public Accounts Committee will be falling into error over and over and over again. And Mr. Speaker, what is worse, the verbatim transcripts will show to all of us in this House how many times the chairman and members of the opposition had to be corrected by things they were attempting to do or preventing from happening because they were trying to be a clean sheet on a dirty bed. So, this motion is to protect rights. Mr. Chairman, and you know, I stand here and to be proud of one thing, that I discharge my responsibility fearlessly and with diligence. And for the chairman to stand up and talk about who is absent and who is present. He enjoys my absence. He enjoys my absence because he's mortally afraid. And I like to remind him, the righteous is as bold as a lion. And the person, Mr. Speaker, who's shouting murderer, they should go outside and say it. The person who is shouting murderer should hang their face in shame because you're repeating a lie.
But honorable member, I allowed. Yeah, it's 2 words you'll have to withdraw, but go ahead. Honorable members, again, we have a number of words being used.
I withdraw, Mr.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, I want to make the point that I will continue to ensure that the people's business are taken care of. We will ensure that the public purse is protected. And we will continue to uphold principles, no matter who are involved. Mr. Speaker, while we were examining Region 5, and we in the government side continue to press for the appearance of the then regional executive officer and the accounting officer to appear. The chairman brought to the committee a report from the Commissioner of Police from the year before that the goodly gentleman was out of the jurisdiction. And it was only after photographs were published on social media of the gentleman's very presence in the country attending a funeral of a comrade in Linden that then he mysteriously appeared. Because the next photograph that would have appeared was not only the gentleman, but people who were knowledgeable of the gentleman's appearance but making excuses for his absence.
The chairman of the PAC.
So, Mr. Chairman, don't come here and talk about the PPPCs trying to hide scrutiny. We are scrutinizing the AP and you AFC. You don't want your rampant and pungent corruption to be examined by the Public Accounts Committee. You want to rush it through even in the absence of the no government. That's what you want to do. That's the real issue here. So, Mr. Chairman, the standing order says any 3 members, but it is only a member of the opposition that can chair the Public Accounts Committee. Or in the absence of the chairman, somebody else from the opposition to assume the chair. So at all material times, At all material times, the business of the Public Accounts Committee will be chaired by a member of the opposition. But in this three formal of any three members, it means that the chairman and two opposition members can meet and fall into error like they did in December, and continue to fall into error and continue to go ahead without the participation of government. This motion is to say here, you will always be the chairman, but we must have a balancing act to ensure that the committee functions with some semblance of order, participation from all, ensuring constitutionality, following the standing orders, upholding the principles of accountability and transparency, and let's do this together. We need to restore order at the Public Accounts Committee and bring an end to the bullyism that has been taking place, which seems to be the landmark. Because when some people can't improve their argument because they lack the ability to articulate it, they resort to bullyism. Madam Teixeira's motion, Mr. Speaker, is in order. It is one that could only serve well. They're talking about when 20, 21, and 22 come. They will still be the chairman. The government will not be able to do any mischief without the opposition. And the balance will continue, and the people's business will be protected. I support this motion, and I call upon all of us in this house, including members of the opposition, who sees a zombie behind every bush, to rise to the levels of objectivity, and let us do this together and restore accountability and transparency and good order at the Public Accounts Committee. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, before I call on the next speaker, I again keep hearing some of the words that are unparliamentary. I am confident our vocabulary is not that limited. It is now 4 o'clock, and I would want to take the suspension now, and we return in 1 hour. Arrangements are being put in place for persons who want to break the fast, who are fasting and want to break the fast at 6:06. Members of the Committee of Selection, we have a meeting now.